Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the 5 O'Clock Hustle podcast. This is episode number 24, and we are so excited to share with you our very first international guest, the Doughnut Prince of Australia, Morgan Hipworth. But before I tell you about the Doughnut Prince, I need to stop and tell you about a product that is going to go great with this episode, and that is Four Sigmatic Mushroom Coffee. This is a superfood beverage that is something we talk about quite a bit on the show, and that's primarily because I'm a huge fan of Four Sigmatic products. I especially like the Focus Blend, which includes lion's mane, which is a great memory retention ingredient. But why is this product so great? It's because it's less acidic than your average cup of coffee, so you don't get that nasty stomach burn. It's also an extremely high quality coffee with no pesticides, no mycotoxins. It's jitter-free. It has a crazy amount of antioxidants and immune boosting properties. It enhances your brain and productivity. It reduces stress. It improves concentration. It improves memory and alertness. All things we 5 O'Clock Hustlers need. And best of all, it doesn't taste anything like mushrooms. So put that fear aside and just try this stuff out. In fact, I'm going to make this 100 times easier for you. So right now, if you go to 5o'clockhustle.com/mushroom coffee, fill out the form, and we're going to send you a free sample of the coffee, and it won't cost you a dime. So if you try it out and you like it, just make sure you use code 5o'clockhustle at checkout, and you'll save 10% off your first order. And by the way, this is only while supplies last. We are giving away 100 samples, and we've already given away a few. So make sure you hop in quick and claim that coffee. Oh, and by the way, whoever does sign up is going to be automatically entered to win $150 worth of Four Sigmatic products. What else can I tell you? That's an amazing deal, and you don't have to do anything except for type in your email, basically. Okay. Back to the Doughnut Prince. Morgan Hipworth is a standout entrepreneur from Melbourne, Australia. And get this, he's only 17 years old. This episode gets real inside baseball, where we touch on how Morgan was able to experience so much success at such a young age. We talk about the creation of his thriving donut shop, Bistro Morgan, how he manages his insane schedule being a student and entrepreneur, and then we find out how the Doughnut Prince plans to become the Doughnut King. It's such a fun episode, and I hope you all enjoy it. But let's get this thing moving. Remember to go to 5o'clockhustle.com/iTunes review to subscribe and rate and review the show. Your subscriptions really are the currency of this podcast, so please take a second and hit that button. Every subscription really, really helps. Again, that's 5o'clockhustle.com/iTunes review. Do it now. Come on. All right. Keep hustling, everybody. And Dre, let's go get some donuts. That's, of course, after you start the show.
5 o'clock hustle.
5 o'clock hustle, bro.
5 o'clock.
5 to 8, 5 to 12, 5 to 3 until you get back up the next morning.
Every week I got a new idea.
And that's what it always is, right? It's crazy.
5 o'clock.
I was doing that in 2005, but everybody thought it was weird.
5 o'clock.
Thus, the side hustle was created.
5 o'clock hustle podcast.
Man, they're having so much fun.
Okay, Morgan Hipworth, thank you so much for joining us on the 5 o'clock hustle podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, man.
It is the afternoon over there for you.
Yeah.
Over here, it's pretty late. This is but this is really fun because this is our first international podcast, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Dean, you know,
Well, I'm Dean, and as you know, we've been talking back and forth, and I actually heard about you because you've just been like a kind of an Instagram and a media sensation. So I guess what I'm gonna do is just kind of tell people, give a little bit of taste about your background, because like we said before the show, I really want this to be a really great learning lesson for our audience. So, anyways, the reason I reached out to you is because you get the term, you were coined the Doughnut Prince of Australia. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so that's pretty incredible if you're the prince of anything in anywhere.
Exactly.
So that kind of made me reach out to you, and then I started listening to your story, and I hear that you started learning how to cook and how to bake for your family and their friends at the age of 7 or 8, and then you went on to start your own business at 13. Kind of by happenstance, but obviously it was part of your journey and part of your path. And then, now it's been, how old are you now? Are you?
I'm 17 now.
Yeah, so you're 17 now.
Yeah.
And you've accomplished so much that I couldn't help but think, usually a lot of our listeners are pursuing a kind of their side hustle, and we're trying to give them and ourselves really the tools to be able to take that to the next level. And for you, you're it's like your life and your path is your side hustle, and the rest of it was just
Yeah.
stuff you had to do. I mean, like,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, so it was really interesting, and I think there's a lot to learn from you and from everything that you've been challenged with and overcame. So that's why we're excited to have you here, and I really do appreciate you joining us. So to start that off, you know, let's talk about let's get your age out of the way real quick, right?
Yeah.
So, like you said, you are a teenager,
Yep.
and what's the business you're running? What's the size of the business you're running right now? Like, how many stores and things like that?
Yeah, so at the moment we've got the one store,
Mm-hmm.
which is in Melbourne, which is where I'm from, and then we also supply about 10 or 15 places around Melbourne. So what we call like wholesale, so we
Mm-hmm.
sell the donuts to them, and then they resell them in their cafes and restaurants.
That's amazing. And so you get all that going. So tell us about, you know, one thing we keep hearing about in the different podcasts is your pop up. How did that work, and what was the success of that?
Yeah, so the way it sort of happened was in September of 2016. I decided I wanted to shop a bit before that, but since I was at the time I was in Year 10, I thought maybe it was best to do a pop up first of all. So we did a pop up in that school holidays, and I ended up selling 10,000 donuts in those 8 days,
Oh
which
my
was pretty
God.
hectic. So not much sleep in those school holidays there,
Yeah.
but that was an amazing time that sort of set the shop up to really open up permanently in December of that year.
And so, I mean, you're still going to school? Like, you haven't really put aside the normal teenager life to pursue this other life you're doing?
Yeah, I'm still in Year 12, so it's the final year of school.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Congrats,
I'm still
man.
doing that. You know, just a normal kid at school, and then doing all this on the side, and you know, in between everything.
That's
Well, I'm
amazing.
pretty sure you're not just a normal kid at school at this point. You know, you're the donut prince, man. That's like the equivalent of that's like the Fresh Prince out here in America. You know,
Yeah,
So, I mean,
that's
like,
great, man.
I'll take that.
so a lot of our audience would talk about opportunity cost when they hear something. You know, for us, an opportunity cost, for instance, is if we want to work late one night, we spend less time with our friends, our family, our children.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think the opportunity cost has been for you that you've chosen to pursue this path?
I think it's a hard one because for me, I think I personally, because I love it so much and all of that, I think there is not as much of an opportunity cost, I guess, as a lot of other, you know, pathways that you could take. Because to me, a lot of the time it's really enjoyable. You know, whether it might be working late or being in the shop and things like that, it's actually quite enjoyable. You know, I guess there is those normal opportunity costs such as sleep and just normal things like that, getting my homework for school done and that kind of stuff. But really, in the whole scheme of things, it's nothing too massive when you're really loving what you do.
Yeah.
So, how many people that are in your school? How many of them have businesses?
Just me, I think, that I know of anyway.
That's so funny.
So you're the prince of business too, in your school, I guess.
Yeah,
What-
half of them are still trying to get like part-time jobs and stuff.
What is that dynamic like? Do people recognize you for that in your school? Like, are they excited for you? How's that situation?
Yeah, it's one of those things, like I go to school and I am kind of just like a normal kid there. You know, I try not to use it to draw too much attention to myself really in terms of, you know, getting out of homework and stuff like that. Because I figure, you know, the school's not making me do it. So, you know, they'll just be like, well, you need to get your homework done sort of thing. So I try and get all that kind of done. And then, you know, with the other kids and stuff, it's, you know, it's interesting, you know, whether some of them are trying to get jobs off me and things like that. But
Sure.
I think a lot of them are just more in awe of, you know, I think, you know, even when you take a step back and look at it, you know, how I guess I was just lucky to find what I love to do, you know, at quite a young age. And a lot of them haven't necessarily found that. So I think it's not even about that business thing. It's actually just about, you know, having someone found what they love to do
Completely.
at my age it's not a very common thing.
Yeah.
And
So
people twice your age.
yeah, for
Exactly.
example, I mean, a lot of people in my family alone didn't start what they were doing until 50. But
Yeah,
so
exactly.
so to that point and to your love for what you're doing, I mean, have you had moments to where, because I know myself, I feel like as an entrepreneur, you often get hyped about different ideas and you want to pursue them, and then you kind of push yourself to a certain place and then you kind of veer a different direction, or you pivot, or whatever it may be. So have you ever felt yourself like wanting to pursue a different area, or is it just been a straight shot for you?
I think it's quite interesting because if you look at sort of my progression, I think if you take it back to when I was 7 and first started cooking, the variation has sort of changed quite a bit because I first started with whether it may be savory and things like that, cooking dinners and stuff, and then that slowly evolved to doing cakes for family and friends' birthdays and things like that. And then when I was 13, I went to a cafe and got chatting to the owner. And they invited me to bring some samples down for cakes and slices. So originally Bistro Morgan was selling cakes and slices to cafes, and then the donuts only came about because they asked me to make some donuts for Valentine's Day. So I made some in heart shaped, and it kind of just took off. So I think that sort of pathway that you take has sort of completely changed the variation, as much as I'm still very into savory food and all other types of food as well. So once I'm out of school and have a bit more time on my hands, I definitely want to get into some other food areas as well.
Okay.
Now, what was it about? I mean, in your opinion, what was it about the donuts that really took off? Like you said, you're doing cakes, you're doing all kinds of stuff. What was it really about the donuts? Because I know I'm a donut connoisseur. So, I mean, I don't know if it's that huge of a thing out there in Australia. I'm not sure. So is it just a market that wasn't available and then it just kind of took off from there? Or what happened with that?
I think what sort of happened was, if you look at, so in terms of the Australian market now for donuts, it certainly has come a long way from where it was when I started. There was mainly only those, your market stalls with hot jam donuts and things like that.
Okay.
So when I first started, there wasn't a lot of real sort of gourmet donut shops, but I think there wasn't a lot of home and handmade donuts as well. Most of them are, such as your Krispy Kremes and things like that, which are quite mass produced. Whether it's not necessarily saying they're bad or anything like that. They're just, quite mass produced. So
just not as good
when
as you.
someone actually, when someone sits down and has a really good handmade artisan donut, it's something a bit different, and they take time and they take effort to make.
Sure.
All our donuts are made fresh every morning. Our baker starts, work throughout the night to make them fresh every day. So it takes a bit of effort, but I think that those sort of finishing touches that I put on the donuts, such as all my toppings were real chocolate, so I don't use a lot of glazes on things like that. For example, all our chocolate is like a real melted couverture chocolate, and our white chocolate's a couverture white chocolate, and things like that, just to add that little bit of a twist on it. And I guess the other thing is, for me, it's probably because I'm a kid, but all our flavors are really fun. So I think that's what donuts, especially in Australia, were lacking. Like, there was a lot of real serious, I know, like rhubarb and all these like adult flavors. But when people want a donut, like, surely you just want like a really fun, like kiddie donut. Like, it takes you back to childhood.
Like a Harry Potter, like every flavor donut.
Yeah, like one of our favorite to do is a Cookie Monster. So it's filled with cake batter and then topped with white chocolate, Oreo, confetti, and hoops of sprinkles.
Everyone listening's mouth is watering.
Yeah, I just want to.
Over.
I just want to stop really. I don't even think we said the name of your business and like where it is and where people can find these things, and we'll throw it again at the end. But it's Bistro Morgan, and it's in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, that's right. So it's at 190 High Street in Windsor, which is in Melbourne.
Oh,
That's
excellent.
great,
Yeah, I mean, most of our listeners they're in the U.S., but if anybody makes a trip out there, oh my gosh, like I know. Like,
or maybe, who knows, one day I might come over to the US.
Oh, there you go.
There you go,
Come to Los Angeles. That's the place to have donuts.
I mean, I feel like you're building your market pretty well. Is that in the plans for you, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Once I'm out of school, end of this year, I've sort of got the world, is my oyster as such. So go straight into it. I want to, try and, just enjoy having the business as such for a while, because at the moment it is sort of pretty hard with school and all that. You've always got yourself in sort of two places at the one time. So it'd be nice to, sit down and take that relaxation for a while. And then I certainly do want to, to expand the business and see where I can go with that. My ultimate dream would, I don't ever want to be like a shop with, every second corner store. I want to have like maybe one or two, maybe, a few major cities around the world to people sort of can travel around and visit us.
Now, your position right now, you're about to wrap up your 12th year, correct?
Yeah.
So, do you have plans for university, or are you going to just go full on into using that time to grow your business?
Yeah, I'm just gonna sort of go full straight into the business. I think I don't know. One of those things with uni for me is I couldn't imagine, being held back as such, another much longer to do what I want to do. I think uni's great if you need a degree to do a job, lawyer, doctor, all that kind of stuff.
They don't have Doughnut University.
Yeah, I think I should make that.
There you go.
You should.
Oh, there you go.
But
There's
yeah,
your business right there.
I'm just gonna go straight into it. And as I said, I love it, and I found what I want to do. So I don't really need to, get something to, help me find what I need to do.
So what do you think you're going to do with all that extra time to grow your business?
It would be nice so I could, actually work as such on it because at the moment, as much as, you do work on it in terms of that, you're also working in it quite a bit. Like on the weekends, like over here, I've been working all morning. So I started work at about 5 a.m. this morning, and we finished today in the shop itself at 1 o'clock. But for example, tomorrow we're there from like 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Because I'm not sure about like over in America, but here in Australia, penalty rates on a Sunday are very, very high. So you have to pay someone like 2.5 times to work on a Sunday.
It's double time, yeah.
So it's really, really high.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, $55 an hour almost to pay someone to work.
Wow.
So it's pretty crazy by the time you take all that out of your sales and stuff. So we work most Sundays. And then during the week, obviously, I'm at school. So all that time I'll be at school. It'd be nice to sort of focus on the business and whether that be trying to find new sites and, expansion plans and stuff like that.
Cool. That sounds great. Yeah, you're definitely learning some hard business lessons.
Yeah, I was going to say 2.5 times
but
on a Sunday.
you seem to take them in stride, so that's great. I've read, some of the stuff I've read, some of the podcasts you've done talk about mentorship, and some of the questions that were asked were kind of like, so how, who helped you here? And I think that, the answer that you give is really great, which is that, well, you kind of learned it on your own. Your parents are in different industries. Yeah. And sorry to take your thunder. I'm just kind of leading to another point, which is, I mean, most of the people that we interview and most entrepreneurs that we speak with and most really successful business owners, it fully embrace mentorship. I mean, is that something that you've started looking at yet to stop learning lessons the hard way? Or are you kind of trying to, just face it on your own?
Yeah, definitely. In the past, I haven't really sort of had too much mentorship. And I think the hard thing has sort of been up until recently, well, a year or so ago, I didn't necessarily even knew what I wanted, had a direct view of what I wanted to do with the business as such. It was, I was just taking it day by day because it was just growing so naturally that I didn't have to do much on it to grow. Like, I know it sounds, that's everyone's dream, but like, honestly, it was just like progressing, one step went to another and the next went to another. And you look back on it now and you couldn't have planned it better, but we didn't plan one thing, So I think that's sort of how it's happened in the past, but certainly now, we're looking at some other people and, working with them like that. But I think, once I've got those ideas in mind, I think it's good to be able to go to these people like mentors and stuff with an idea about what you want and how you want to execute it, and then see what their thoughts on that are rather than relying on them for, advice and things like that.
Yeah. You don't need them for, excuse me, you don't need them for direction per se, but definitely like planning and strategy, but
exactly.
Absolutely. That's great. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So besides and I don't want to jump too far ahead, because I know there's a lot of interesting stuff that took place in order for you to create this. But besides, you just being in school still and, the lack of time, what are some of the other challenges that you've like kind of come up against just in starting in this business? You saying that this is something that you really love and that you want to do. So obviously you're going to keep doing it. You're going to be very persistent at it. What are some of the challenges that you have had so far? And do you anticipate now that you have more time, using that time to, like Dean was saying, get more mentorship to limit those, or are you still going to try and just kind of,
hands-on,
like just
deal with it as it comes?
Exactly.
I think, there's so many issues, and I think for me, the hardest one since I've opened the shop has been staff and dealing with staff. That's certainly been one of the hardest, whether it's just been, because I think there's so many things. First of all, like staff, a lot of the time don't necessarily have that level of, expertise or eye for detail that I
Yeah.
do.
It's your
You come
baby.
in and you see something. Yeah, you see something that's not right, and that's fine to them, but it just gets on your nerves and stuff. So certainly, staffing has been one of those hardest issues and areas, but we're streamlining processes and making things easier day by day. But there's so many hard ones where you go. When I first started, like I don't get this so much anymore, but when I first started, there was certainly some issues around their age in terms of people doubting that I even did it. Full stop. Most people just assumed it was my parents. Or most people, were like, oh, he probably just went to the toilet and scratched his bum and picked his nose kind of thing, and now was making enough food. But I was like, full on qualified in food handling and all of that. So that was certainly a bit of an issue I'd experienced in the past, but that's certainly gone down. I think, as you prove those people wrong and you continue to go on, that goes down.
I think you kind of brought up the age a little bit again, and like we said we weren't gonna talk about it too much, but I am curious. It's hard because it's kind of like it's a little bit of your persona right now. Do you think that your age has anything to do with your success?
I think it's one of those hard things. So I think in terms of when I first started, the age certainly was it was a great marketing ploy. As such, it's certainly what helped me get a lot of the media attention and things like that I did when I first started. But I think that all would have been great in the short term. But if the business wasn't viable, if the donuts were no good, then I wouldn't still be around. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's, it was everyone, any, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old can start a business. But if there's no backing behind that, and love for what you do, then it's probably not going to continue to go on and grow. So it's certainly that, has been a part to play, but I think there's lots more factors as well.
Yeah, Dre had a lemonade stand when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And he didn't sell 10,000 lemonades.
No, not at all.
So he probably just had bad lemonade.
Product was terrible.
Yeah, I reckon bad lemonade, that's all it was.
So your brand is like it's growing. It's a large size. You're doing really well.
Yeah, it's taking off.
People can't replicate that kind of thing without having the talent that you have, and that's just obvious. But your social media game is crazy. Like, how are you managing that along with like everything else?
Yeah, well, thank you first of all, but social media, I sort of, it's probably my other passion as well, in terms of that marketing side of things. I really do enjoy, taking photos. Most of the photos you'll see on my Instagram, I take myself.
That's awesome.
And then post them up that night. So I love that side of it, interacting with my customers and things like that. Because when I first started, and I was just making them home, that the hard thing about wholesale is you don't get to see and interact with your customers, because your customers are the cafes. You don't see that end customer who buys the donut. So social media originally was a way for me to, see the customers, buying the donuts and picking them up from the cafes and posting them on social media. And I used to get, really excited when I'd get tagged in on a photo and things like that. So that's how it originally started, and why I started it. And then from there, I think Instagram's our main form of marketing. So it's such a powerful marketing tool, because, people follow you. And to me, it's really, if someone follows you, you need to take that seriously, because they're not going to follow you for bad content. You don't want to look in your newsfeed to see all this rubbish content. So if you're scrolling down your newsfeed, you want to see good quality images, videos, and content that people are actually going to like and comment and things like that on. So it's sort of been a real integral part of, our marketing.
Yeah, I don't think there's a better subject matter than your donuts. They're freaking beautiful. I wish they would keep in a FedEx package, but
yeah.
But
I don't know how they would go. I reckon that maybe the driver on the way over would eat them.
Right, exactly.
So
go ahead.
I got a question. Yeah, so Morgan, so a lot of our audiences, they struggle in similar ways that you do with time. It's for different reasons, because you are still going through the conventional motions, while they are actually working a 9 to 5, which is not a lot different, actually. Some would argue that you're going through a more challenging time than they are. and vice versa, whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
like aside from just your pure love for what you're doing, I mean, when you wake up at on a school day, for instance, and you're like, oh, I can't, I do not have the energy to do both of them today. Or when you finish school one day and you're like, okay, I gotta get back to it. Like, what keeps you going? Aside from just your love, is there any advice that you can give our listeners about how to keep reinvigorating that motivation?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of me, and this is what I would say to others as well, is have like not an end goal, but where do you want to be, in a certain amount of time? Because, like for me, mine's not a massive, 10-year plan kind of thing like that, but mine's at the moment is literally just, in 1 year, I want to be out of school and working on and in the business. So, in terms of that gets me up every day, and gets me through the next day of school and things like that, because I'm working towards, getting away from there. And whether that means, if people having their own, business as well as a job, maybe that's working on your business and getting it to a point where one day you can leave your job and you can, just have your own business. So for me, just focusing on that, and, why you got to always go back to why do you have your own business? You're not going to do it for it to be not enjoyable and just like any other job. So it surely has to be better than having another job if that's why you've got your business.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. That's incredible.
And do you have any siblings?
No, I'm an only child.
Your only child. I was gonna say, man, if you got a younger brother or sister, like what an example you're setting for them, man. Like, just incredible,
for everybody.
Everybody, but especially if someone was looking at it that close. But I look at it, as well, and I look at, for me personally, the joy that donuts just bring to me. If I was making donuts and I can see the joy on those people's faces once they ate this amazing creation,
that's just pretty amazing.
Everything that, from the look to the taste and everything like that would probably get me up every morning and just keep me going.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, especially when you see families and things like that coming in, like tomorrow, as you said, Mother's Day for us over here, got families coming in, and spending their family time at our store is pretty amazing to have that influence and impact on these people's day, and maybe make their day that a little bit better with that donut and things like that it's just really people don't think about a lot of the time, but it's so small things that really do mean a lot.
So this is definitely backtracking a little bit, but I'm super curious about that, and we touched on it a little bit. That first venture with the pop-up, walk us through that. How did you organize that at such a young age?
So I think the pop-up it came about because I wanted the permanent store and my parents wouldn't let me. So we came onto a compromise and said, let's do a pop-up. And their idea of a pop-up was like a trestle table, out the front of a cafe or something, selling some donuts. But I had a much different idea of getting a shop and fitting it out and stuff. So I got on a few real estate sites and found a shop that was up for short-term lease in one of my favorite areas of Melbourne. So I contacted the landlord and from there we went down and organised an inspection at the shop. So we went down and looked at the shop and, it was a reasonable price. We thought, within reason, you don't have to sell that much to break even. So what's the real risk involved as such? So I decided we committed to it for the 8 days in the school holidays. I didn't have any idea what to expect. We certainly didn't expect to sell 10,000 in 8 days, that's for sure. Yeah. We actually nearly ran out of boxes. I was reminded of that this morning when we were bringing some more of our 6-packs down to the shop. We actually nearly ran out of our boxes in the pop-up because we didn't think we would get that many printed. So it was one of those crazy experiences, and it was the way we did it was every morning I would be down there with my mum from maybe 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. I'd roll out all the donuts and get them in the fryer, and they would all come out fresh, and I'd drag some of my cousins and aunties and stuff like that in to help decorate the donuts. And then at 10 a.m. the shop doors would open and I would sell them until 5 o'clock some nights and 9 o'clock on the weekends. And then I would stay there till probably 2 a.m. that next morning, just preparing for the next day. And you'd probably get about 1 or 2 hours sleep in between that. Yeah. So it was really done on skeleton staff as such, because we didn't expect we would need many more. It was just a crazy, experience that took off really.
That is so crazy, and it must have been like, it's just at that age. I just like, what was the feeling like? Were you just excited? Were you scared? Like, what were you feeling at that time?
Yeah, I think it's one of those. It was mainly excited. So I think, because I had always, it's been hard. Like we've done a few markets before the pop up and things like that, and we knew from the markets that because we didn't do a lot of retail, we would always end up getting a queue at these markets we would do, and it was one of those sort of hype places around Melbourne because you couldn't get them. So when the pop up came around, we thought it was going to be good, but I remember opening our door on the first day at 10 a.m. and I said to my mom, so what happens now? Like, we've made all these donuts and we opened the door and, what happens now? And I remember thinking on the Sunday when we closed, well, that's what happens now. Everyone just comes and flocks and doesn't leave us alone. But it was pretty amazing. It was very exciting. I don't know whether I've never felt scared about really anything I've done. And I don't know whether that just comes with my age because I haven't necessarily had those failures and things like that. But I haven't ever felt real scared about, whether it be signing a lease and things like that.
Right.
Wow.
I'm sure that just comes with you knowing, like you said, you just knowing what you want, and knowing that
exactly.
you're not going to stop at anything to go and get it. So I think that's great, man.
But that's also, and I will say, not going to make this about age. I promised myself it wouldn't. But a lot of times that people, like what we teach is for you to look at every failure as a step forward. But that's because people have had so many freaking failures that when they finally find something they're passionate about, you have to instill that mindset, or else they're just going to give up after the first time they fail.
Yeah, exactly right.
I mean, and with you've been fortunate enough to where you have seen kind of micro failures along your path, but your path has been very consistent and very steadfast. And I think that's a huge benefit for you. So, I mean, what I would take from that is for people to go after what it is they find as their passion as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly right.
you encounter less roadblocks, and you build you build more of an overcome mindset because maybe the adversity is a different flavor, and maybe it's something that you can you can find a way to get past.
Yeah, and I always say, I think, with the passion and stuff, customers can tell when you're not passionate about your product and your business. To me, it's one of those things that, if you're not going to buy what you're selling, don't expect other people to buy it. If you're really passionate and want to be there and enjoy it, then that rubs off on the customers. That happiness, they feel that as well. And it's that general vibe that literally can run through the whole business. As soon as you're negative, that, culture starts from the top. As soon as your owner doesn't to be there, doesn't enjoy it, it's going to go down, and eventually the customers are going to feel that, and they're going to think they're getting ripped off, the product's not good, or one thing or another.
So what is the culture for your business? Like, what tone do you try and set for your employees, the guests, because I'm assuming it's a high energy, just fun type thing. Like, what is it? What is the important piece of the culture for you?
And how do you support it?
Right.
Yeah, so to me, it's just have fun. I think is honestly the main thing. Have fun and get the job done. It's one of those, everyone sort of says have fun, but so many people don't mean it. And I think it really is for me. I support it by every single day, and I'm there, enjoying it and loving it. And it's funny for me because I guess, with school and stuff as well, I always equate it to almost like a job that you don't love. So it's funny for me being able to see both sides because I can see how jobs can be when you don't love them. Mm-hmm. And it's not a great environment to be in. You spend so much time at work, you sometimes see them more than you see your family. You want to be loving it and enjoying it. So for me, it's just have fun, whether that be from the customer's point of view, when they're coming in and picking their donuts and their milkshakes and things like that, or whether that be from an employee's view as well.
Wow, that's incredible.
There's so many parallels between, like you're bringing up between school and the 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
I mean, it's
exactly.
It's the same. It's for all intents and purposes in this conversation, it may as well be the same thing, and you're facing the same challenges.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And I just have I have a quick question, and it's not directed at you completely, but I'm just talking to my guys here as well. Would it have counted for how when we had jobs in high school, like it counted for credit? like, would it have counted if we just ran a business? You know, like we got like class credits for having like
Work experience.
work experience. Yeah, for working. I'm like, would that
When
have
you're
worked?
making more than your teachers, do they still accept
Do
credit?
they still accept credit? Exactly. When they're envious of
We
you.
were not as focused as you.
No, and no offense to teachers either. They do such a valuable job, you know,
Of course.
because some paths don't necessarily, look at them differently. It's not to discredit anyone or anything anyone does. Obviously, you share that same, but
Now, we were, a few episodes, well, it must have been a lot of episodes back. We interviewed another bakery, and they're in the startup stage. They're called Quant's Bakery, and they make vegan baked goods.
yeah, and they got about
Cookies
5 years on you. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, they're in college. They're wrapping up their last year in college, and but they're just startups. Like, what do you think? Like, is there something that you can suggest these guys, because they're always looking for they're those kind of people who are always looking for some kind of advice. Like, what can you tell like a young startup in your industry?
I think the first thing is to make sure you have a good product. It's especially hard when you look at, vegan as such, because it really...
Throwing down the gauntlet.
I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying this. I'm saying it really limits their customers, because a lot of the time, people who have a normal as such diet, a regular diet, won't buy a vegan product. We find that in our shop we have a vegan donut, and it really does only appeal to mainly vegans. So I think that is the first hard thing. But if you do want to go down that path, make sure your product is good. There's no reason vegan bread and things like that can't be good, but make it good. You don't want to have some, product that, is great for vegans, but, not necessarily for everyone else. So make your product good, get your marketing right, get some good photos. I would try and, get good with your camera. For me, photographers are so expensive. If every single time I wanted to post a photo on Instagram, I had to go out and hire a photographer, I reckon I would have been broke 2 years ago because they are honestly so expensive. So if you can do photos yourself, and then take good photos as well. You don't, for Instagram and stuff like that. Like I said, customers want to see quality content, and then the rest will just come on from there, honestly.
Cool.
That's amazing.
We love it. Hey, Morgan, so we want to be respectful of your time. I think you only have about 2 more minutes with us. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, about that.
Okay, that's okay. So look, we're going to wrap it up with this final question to you, okay? And take as long as you have.
Yeah.
How does the Prince of Doughnuts move forward to becoming the king?
Oh, that's a hard one. Let's see. So I guess in terms of the king of donuts, what would that look like?
He'd be 18.
I guess once I'm out of school. Yeah, I'll be 18 once I'm out of school. I'm getting old, God. But so let's see. I can try and, as I said, work in the business a bit more and on the business, which will really be able to help focus my thinking and stuff on that. Because it's hard, with school and stuff, you've got homework and stuff like that always hanging over your head. So working on that, and then, be trying to open my second store sort of once I'm out of school, and then, bring that, whether it might be first of all nationally to Australia or
Los
then
Angeles.
possibly even internationally. Yeah, to Los Angeles and places like that, which would be pretty amazing one day. That's sort of my ultimate dream to, whether it be, one in, LA, one New York, one, Melbourne, one in Sydney, like
Vegas,
all these,
baby,
capital
Vegas.
cities around the world. Yeah, just these places, I don't want to be, all around, like where everyone can get them. Exclusivity is a really amazing thing. And for me, it's what I really want my brand to, be built off, that exclusivity of, gourmet artisan donuts, because I think you never want to lose your quality. So by doing that King of Donuts, you need to have good quality. You never want to, be able to, you don't want someone to say, oh, these were good 5 years ago, but they're pretty average now. So if you keep that consistent quality, it will really help drive that along.
Perfect.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you right now, when you come to Los Angeles to open your donut shop, you can do a pop-up like you did before. And we're in Kardashian country
here.
out here in Calabasas.
Yeah.
And everybody
They would eat them up.
So I'm telling you right now,
first in the queue.
it would be the perfect spot right here in Kardashian country. But
Look, hey man, you're obviously a good person. You're a great inspiration. You've been a wonderful guest. I think that there's a lot to take from your lessons, and we're looking forward to hearing how everything progresses for you. So, so we can support that. Where can our listeners find you? How can we support you?
Yeah, awesome. So on Instagram as such, so my business is at Bistro Morgan, and my account myself is at Morgan Hipworth. So yeah, chucking a follow on there, and you can keep up to date with all the stuff we can do. You see all the donuts and also my sort of, personal outgoings and things like that, whether that be, behind the scenes work and collaborations we're working on. That's another thing that, I would say again to people, try and collaborate with other people you look up to, and who think like-minded, because those collaborations can be really, really beneficial. So things like that. And then my website is bistromorgan.com.au.
Perfect.
And check it out, because those donuts, like, even if you're not in Australia, you'll get the nourishment through the visuals, because they're just
when you start finding a way to like freeze dry and ship to the US, you're gonna have a whole following over here waiting for you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, hey,
Or just open up over there. That's the easier way.
Right. We really, really appreciate your time, man. And whatever you're going off to, go kill it. And we'll hope to chat soon. And it was really a pleasure.
Yes, and
to
our listeners, everything that we covered, you can find all the resources and stuff at 5o'clockhustle.com/Bistro Morgan.
That's
right.
right.
You'll be able to find all the show notes and all the goods there. Thanks again, Morgan.
Yeah,
we
thanks,
hope
Morgan.
to talk to you soon. I feel like there's so much more stuff we could have talked about. Your experience with Shark Tank and all, and
All right, we'll get it.
scaling
Yeah.
a business.
Yeah.
But you know what? You're a busy man, and we're gonna let you go.
We'll do a follow-up after Shark Tank.
All right.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
There you go.
Teaser right
Great.
there. All right. Take care, Morgan.
Yeah.
Bye now.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.